Hello and welcome to another edition of the Steelers Depot live stream. I am Alex Kozora, as always, SteelersDepot.com, here until 8 p.m. Eastern time to answer your Steelers questions. Apologize in advance for being tardy, really apologizing after the fact, and apologize in advance. Dave Bryan is not here at the moment. We're having some tech issue. Maybe we can try to get that sorted out midstream. So right now, it is just me, but still here to answer your Steelers questions until 8 p.m. Eastern time. Pittsburgh getting a big 3-1 victory in terms of their record, advancing to 3-1 over the Minnesota Vikings, 24-21 Sunday in Ireland. So we're here to answer your questions about the game, where the team is at 4 weeks in, and where they're headed after their Week 5 bye. If you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. If you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered, you can send us a super chat. No obligation to do so. But we appreciate them all the same. So I'll kind of get things set up here on my end, and we'll get to the questions and get started. All right, leading off here with our friend John Pennington. He says, "Hello, Dave and Alex. What is going on with, with Freiermuth and his play lately or lack of targets? And do you guys think they need to get a punt returner ready? And who would that be?" On the second question, yes, with Calvin Austin, his shoulder injury that could cause him to miss Week 6 and beyond. We just don't know timetable right now. If the Steelers were playing a Week 5 game, I could probably pretty confidently say that Austin would not play. We'll just have to see how things look out of the bye. So could Scotty Miller do that? Could they bring somebody in? We'll have to see exactly who plan B and next man up is there, because it's not abundantly clear. I think Miller could be a possibility. Could Roman Wilson get a look as well? Get him some value. Of course, his offensive role would expand if Austin misses. On Freiermuth, it's a combination of things. I mean, it's no surprise to see his target share go down whenever you add a Jonnu Smith and, become even more multiple at tight end. He made some plays early in the season, Week 1 against the Jets. Certainly, I think for Sunday's game, there was a plan and intent to get your big people out, your big personnel, and run the ball really effectively against the Vikings defense that was weaker against the run than the pass. Spencer Anderson, as a tackle eligible, 6 offensive linemen played 19 snaps. Darnell Washington played over 90% of the snaps, and so that was more the focus in this game than it was on getting the tight ends involved as receivers in the game plan, where Pittsburgh had its best rushing performance of the season. But these things ebb and flow. The overall thought is DK Metcalf gets his targets. That's not going to be affected too much game to game. He's going to be involved in every single game. Everybody else, though, is grab bag. It's feast famine. Maybe one game is this guy's night. Maybe the next game it's somebody else's. You're not going to get consistent, reliable targets in this offense unless you are that number one, which is DK Metcalf. And Freiermuth, of course, not a great blocker, probably a little less versatile. In fact, I would say certainly less versatile than Jonnu Smith. He can move around, but Jonnu Smith is a little more athletic, a little more that running back, line up in the backfield, do some different stuff, jet sweep type stuff that Freiermuth does not have in his arsenal, which gives Jonnu Smith the edge. And then John also says, do you guys think any changes should happen on the offensive line or leave it the way it is? No, leave it. They had a great performance. They had their swagger back. They blocked with confidence. They did a great job against a good Vikings front. The depth is not great anyway, so there wouldn't be a move to make. Regardless, they're healthy. You keep it as is. Does that mean it's going to be this great every single week? We'll keep watching, but I have no desire to make a change right now. Ray W., the winning teams all have big, fast, durable tight ends making big plays and scoring touchdowns. There's probably a lot of truth to that. I hadn't examined exactly all the top teams and their tight ends, but Buffalo, normally Baltimore, not the case right now for them. Kansas City looking right again. They got a couple good tight ends, obviously Kelsey, Noah Gray. So yeah, Philadelphia, Minnesota with Hawkinson. I get what you're saying there, right? But I think Pittsburgh certainly likes what they have at tight end. Mark Cunningham, what's going on, fellas? Are we witnessing a potential Freiermuth problem? Snaps are way down Sunday. His effort on that block kick was unacceptable. Also, just wondering, I wouldn't call it a problem. Like I said to John, that target share is going to get moved around quite a bit. So I don't think Freiermuth can be counted on for the 60 receptions every year like he's had up until this point. The field goal block, Yeah, I mean, he's got to protect inside, and so that's his primary responsibility. I think he just needed to get his base a bit bigger and play a little bigger and get a little wider on his steps. But, Rodgers made a good play. That was a heck of a play by Isaiah Rodgers to block that kick. That was could have been a pivotal moment in that game. So we'll keep watching it going forward. None of the tight ends have been uber productive this year. It's really been Metcalf and then occasionally Austin, and that's been about it. All right, let's see what else do we have here. We got Steel Pastor, John Horvat, Ronald, Ali Howard, Bryan, Kevin, David, Andrews here. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Just give me 1 second if I can maybe try to still connect here with Dave. We'll hopefully get him at some point here. If not, then we'll catch him for the next live stream. Let me scroll back up, find where I left off. John Horvat says, hey guys, Troy looks encouraging regarding his technique. Broderick still seems to struggle with his tech. Do you guys think it is an in-game issue, as in he can do it in practice, not the game? I'm still coming through some of the All-22. I thought Broderick played pretty well overall. I think he still carries his hands a little low, can be late on his punch, and Fautanu seems a little more consistent with that. But Fautanu's had his issues. He's had problems with power and inside counters and inside spins. He's really good at, with a solid base to protect the edge and defend speed to his edges on the outside. But I think there's things for Fautanu to work on too. So I think there's still a lot of improvement there for both those tackles. But I think Jones has made some strides. He was pretty emotional. He's pretty amped up in this game. But I don't mind that. I like these offensive linemen playing with a lot of confidence and some high emotion. So we're seeing some strides there. We'll keep watching it. Certainly would be a big matchup coming out of the bye facing Myles Garrett in Week 6. Ronald Hall, hi guys. If Calvin is out for an extended period of time, do you see them leaning on Roman Wilson or seeking a trade? I think you start in-house, still not quite at the time where teams are selling. You're pushing towards that direction, that kind of first month of the season to figure out who's contenders, who's pretenders, whose seasons already look over. But you start in-house with the guys who already know your system, have been with your team the entire spring and summer and now into the fall before you start looking at outside options. But a lot will be expected out of Roman Wilson and Ben Skoranek, who's more of that, grind it out, blocker, do it all, do the dirty work type of guy. Could they promote from the practice squad? Isaiah Hodgins, who's got experiences on there right now. Of course, Scotty Miller, also on the 53, like Roman Wilson, undersized, but a lot of speed. Aaron Rodgers seems to like Scotty Miller quite a bit. Those guys had a connection late in training camp. So, yeah, who can take on that Austin role, which is not always the consistent number one. That's DK, obviously, but Austin has made some big plays in critical moments this year, so somebody will have to assume that. So you start in-house, and then, you figure it out by the deadline, which is Week 9 this year, but we'll see if Austin can come back before then. Hopefully he can. Got a $5 super chat from East Coast Runner. Says, happy Victory Monday. Says, thank you for the weekly podcast. Thank you, East Coast Runner. Appreciate that. We have the Monday show, Dave and I, up on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc. So check that out. Dave and I going through all of the minutia and the big stories of this Dublin dub. Got Vegas TJG here as well, so appreciate you guys stopping by. Flying solo right now. We'll try to get Dave on whenever we can. John Johnson says, Dave and Alex, thanks for all you do. I live in Vail, Colorado, but because of you, I'm better informed than all my friends to get local coverage back in Pittsburgh. I look forward to the pods every week. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Really means a lot to have support from all over, not just the U.S., but all over the world. And so it's just heartening to hear those kind words, and we do our best to keep you guys informed. So thank you, John, for hanging out with us from Colorado. Brian Junker, I didn't get to watch a second time, so what was the change in blocking scheme to allow decent running? It felt like some more gap schemes, some more power. You saw McCormick pulling a lot. You saw Malu pulling a couple times. I had pulled some of the numbers before this game. Pittsburgh was really more middle of the pack in terms of their zone run rank and their gap and power run rank, which surprised me. I thought there'd be more zone and not a lot of gap, so I haven't gotten the numbers of this game, but felt like some more gap overall. But I think, Pittsburgh brought in its big people, a lot of Darnell Washington, a good deal of Spencer Anderson, 19 snaps. I think 18 of those were as a tackle eligible. There was one where he came in to replace Malu, who lost a shoe for the tush push that Connor Haywood ran. So Anderson effective in that role. Pittsburgh had a commitment to the run game. They got a good push. And just a lot of it comes down to execution. It's not super mystical or inventive. It's just blocking better, sustaining, driving, finishing. I think certainly Pittsburgh felt confidence and a swagger and juice, and that kind of begets, good blocks as you get more energized and start wearing down and imposing your will on the defense. So there certainly was an attitude in demeanor that felt different about this game, but that's a byproduct of this team having some early success and then sustaining throughout. But probably a little schematic change in terms of personnel, and then maybe some more gap power runs, especially on the goal line. That Gainwell second touchdown, an example of that. Kevin Doubleday, what does a contract extension for Darnell Washington look like? That's a good question. Actually, it's funny, Pittsburgh played Minnesota yesterday, and they have a blocking tight end, Josh Oliver, who I think got about $8 million per year. Forget if it was before the 24 season or before the 2025 season, so you'd probably look to beat that mark. So maybe in that $9 million range. I think Fryermuth and Jonnu Smith are around, 11, 12, 13 million per year. Washington won't touch that on having the receiving production, but I think 9 million is probably a good number to start with. That's a broad average yearly value. What are the details? What's the structure of it? Obviously, age just as important, but that's probably a good starting point. But those conversations won't happen until, of course, the off season. Did we win? That finish was too close for comfort. We were all riding high for 54 minutes, though. That was an unusually dominant to start. Will there be more of this to come? That says David. I hope so, in terms of the first 54. That was a really good performance. The first drive was bad. Minnesota came out, kicked the field goal. They sacked Aaron Rodgers on the first play, but Pittsburgh got things going until the end of the game. I said until that final 5 minutes. So I hope Pittsburgh can continue to start fast. They've done a nice job of starting well overall this season. First drive touchdown against the Jets, up 14-0 on New England. In the first two games, they had scored big points on, or the first three games, they had scored points on all six of their first two possessions. So the first two in the week one, first two in week three, first two in week two, scored points on. That was important. And Pittsburgh finding success against Minnesota to have a halftime lead. So I would love for that to continue. Will it? I wish I could predict it. The Browns will be a good test. Divisional foe. They know Pittsburgh well. They split the season series each year since, I think, at least 2022. Got a really good defense. It's keeping them in games, so we'll see on the other side of the bye. John Horvat, obviously a much better game from Benton. Did you notice any changes specific for what helped this past game? Let's see. What else did John say? I just lost my place here. That should help him moving forward, or was this just a fluke? I wouldn't call it a fluke. I mean, the Vikings had some injuries up front. Pittsburgh played a lot of nickel in this game, less space, so you had Benton kind of in a gap. Maybe that helped a little bit, but I thought Benton just played really well. Just kind of met the moment, played to his talent. He's certainly capable of being an impactful player. Even in his struggles this year, there's talent, and so realizing that talent, I think, was just coming together in a game, and hopefully that can continue. Give me 1 sec. Let me try to call Dave. If you guys can just kind of, I'm going to maybe not pause the stream, but mute myself for a second, and we'll try. Hold on 1 second. All right, I think I'm back. Let me know if I'm back. And then Dave is here. Dave, you can give me a quick test, and chat can let us know if we're good to go.
Yes, test. 1, 2. Happy Monday.
All right, chat. Let me know if you guys can hear us and we are all good. And if we are, then we will keep it rolling. So just let us know real quick, and then we'll pick up where I think John's question left off. So just let us know. Vegas says we're good. Rick says we can hear you both. Okay, cool. We are good to go. Good. So Dave is here. Heard him on the podcast this morning giving his thoughts on the game. So to John's question about Benton, yeah, just a good game, and hopefully he can keep building upon that. Maybe playing less zero tech, but I just think overall he was, getting upfield, making plays, making an impact, and probably had some more confidence too, making some plays early with like the offensive line get you going for the rest of the game. All right, next question comes from Andrew Samuels. Do you think we will see more of that heavy package with Washington and Anderson essentially acting as the 6th and 7th offensive lineman? That's going to be hard for other teams to deal with that weight alone. Given the positive results, I hope and would expect to see it going forward. Will it be exactly to that degree where Washington's playing 90+% and Anderson's getting 19 snaps, which really was about a fifth, if not more, of what Pittsburgh ran in this game? That number will ebb and flow, but I think there was proof of concept was you put your big people out there and lo and behold, you ran the ball effectively. So there should be some continuation of that going forward. Dave, would you agree?
Yeah, look, I mean, they had success running the football, and I think as I said this morning on the podcast, I think it was something like 14 snaps in total with Anderson, as the extra offensive lineman, and I think 74 yards rushing on those carries there. So, look, I mean, it's not a foreign concept. A lot of coordinators around the league will use an extra offensive lineman like this, and obviously when you're ahead, it like the Steelers were, that you usually see a lot of running happen after that. So I think that was the game plan going in, that if they got a lead like that, they'd like to lean on the run a little bit more and potentially use a guy like Anderson like that in that role. So I don't think you've seen, I mean, the results speak for themselves. Anytime you have, 5 yards per carry with a personnel grouping out there like that, I think it needs looking into. So yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of it. And I would expect this team to try to do that after the bye week against Cleveland and see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Dave, 100%. Just a reminder to like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Got a video going up tomorrow morning on all the Easter eggs of this win over Minnesota. Couple of questions and a comment on Mike Tomlin, his end-of-game decision-making. One from David Leach says, thoughts on Tomlin's choices towards the end of the game. And then Javon Threat saying, bluntly, Mike Tomlin made bad end-of-game decisions. All's well that ends well, Dave, in a victory. But what were your thoughts on Tomlin's decisions at the end of this thing?
Yeah, we kind of hit on this for a good, 5-8 minutes or whatnot this morning as well, too. Talked about, at the tail end when we were talking about the offensive side of the football, what each other thought about, the fourth down decisions there. The first one, fourth and, what was it, three and a half and goal to go situation there. A field goal in that situation would have resulted in them in Minnesota needing 2 full touchdowns to beat you at that point. Now, on the flip side of that, you can think, well, okay, if we don't get it in this situation, at least we leave the ball deep down in their end. And then you've got the whole probability and how they've played so far against the run and the pass overall on defense. So you probably felt pretty good from that standpoint. I understand why he did it. I think Alex and I came to the conclusion that even though I probably would have lived in my fears and I probably would have kicked the field goal in that situation, it's more the play call, the actual run play call that was called, that I would have liked to seen a better 2-point play maybe out of your bag, as opposed to because didn't they pull? I think even on that one of the plays that they pulled McCormick on,
I think so.
Right to left as well too. And look, I'm a fan. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of gap schemes and pulling, but a little less so the closer you get to the goal line. You and I had this conversation, I don't know, going back several years ago as well too, about trying to do too much, have too many bodies moving the closer you get to the goal line. So even though I'm a huge gap scheme fan, I much rather would watch that than an inside zone run. Personally, I'm not a fan of it the closer that you get inside the deeper down in the red zone there. And specifically, I mean, this team doesn't run a lot of gap scheme either. So there's a lot of coordination, a lot of things that got to go right on that. So I think you and I came to the conclusion this morning that it wasn't so much the idea to go for it, it was the actual play call. Now on the second one, yeah, that it all started with a delay of game, and that felt kind of rushed. And I'm fine with trying to draw them off sides and all, but you got to get to the line with more than a second and a half or whatever it was time on the play clock there. And then obviously once you took the delay of game at that point, you kind of knew that they were going to punt it, but they didn't even try to hide the fact. They told Waitman just boot that thing as far as you try to boot that one back to America, if you will. And he did as he was told there. So I much rather would have liked to seen the play come, the decision and the play come in quicker on fourth down where you don't get that delay game call. And if you can't pick up 1 yard in the NFL when the game depends on it, you probably don't deserve to win at that point. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in that because it kind of was, kind of the opposite kind of thinking, if you will, the first decision.
Here's my overall thoughts. The decisions themselves were not necessarily poor or wrong to go for it on fourth down and to punt on 4.5 yards at the end of the game. I think you can defend both. The decision to go for it on 4th and goal is more defensible than the decision to punt on 4th and inches, but I think both can be justified. The issue that I have is the ensuing play call, the run on 4th and goal from the 3.5. Even though you had been running well, I'd rather have Rodgers have the ball in that moment than a traditional power run play. And then, as you said, the decision to punt, I can accept. The decision to just boot it into the 4th row for a net gain of 20 yards when Minnesota only needs a field goal and their kicker can hit from 62, 65 plus is an issue. So I think the decisions themselves were justifiable, but the actual ensuing play off of that was a problem.
Yeah, and if we're going to have obviously those decisions would be magnified even more, right? Had they lost the game.
Oh yeah, it'd be the number one thing, the only thing we're talking about.
Yeah. So, but it's and that was why it was key that we had the conversation that we had this morning about it, because it's unfair just to push it aside just because they won. And I know a lot of people are talking. I know it was a topic on talk radio today as well too. So yeah, it most definitely needs to be discussed. It's a fair question to ask about the in game decisions that were made. So once again, personally, what I would have done on that first one on the 4th and goal from the 3.5 is I probably would have rolled Boswell out there. And 2, I guess you're thinking, yeah, well, they already blocked one in the game. I don't know. And then of course there's the whole probability and the stats analytics facet. Okay, even if you don't get it, they've got to go 99
or 97, yeah. That's what you're saying.
At least yards to go to get to get a touchdown in that situation there. So I would have been a fraidy cat, and I just would have kicked the field goal in that situation. And I guess in the second one, it probably I would have got the play call in quicker and just try to run straight ahead and get the first down. Or if I had to punt, I think I would have at least seen what Waitman could done to try to pin him inside the 20.
Yeah, I think the thought maybe for Pittsburgh on that punt was we don't want to risk the return. There might be an all-out rush. Let's kind of get the ball off as soon as we can, but still 20-yard net there is not acceptable. If Pittsburgh was up 27-21, it's a touchdown game, then yeah, fine, boot it in the end zone, make him go 80 yards with 1:08 left and no timeouts, but not in a field goal situation. So that was poor. I think Tomlin should be critiqued for it. Head coaches get magnified, and their game day job is really boiled down into those situational moments, making calls, those tough decisions, and what those calls end up, being in fourth down and goal to go and that type of stuff. And Tomlin, I thought, did not have a good showing in this one.
Right.
Mad Crazy Gaming family with the Austin injury to the Steelers finally trade for a receiver, as I kind of said above. Would not expect them to rush out and go acquire a receiver. They'll look internally. and obviously gauge how long Austin will be out for. Is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be more? That's going to have a factor, obviously, but I would not expect them to have new help by week 6.
Yeah, and especially this far away from the trade deadline, because not everybody's in sell mode just yet. However, if the Dolphins lose this game tonight to the Jets, they might not. They might be looking for a new head coach on top of everything else. So, but I know a lot of people are high on Tyreek Hill. I get it. Tyreek Hill is a big playmaker and all, but would the Dolphins even be willing to part with him? Do the Steelers even want to bring? They just got rid of George Pickens, or they want another guy like that in the locker room? I think potentially maybe a team to watch. Obviously, the closer that you get to the trade deadline might be the Raiders, right? With
Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers over there. Maybe that becomes a situation. The closer you get to the trade deadline, I just don't think during the bye week here, even if you traded for someone right now, it would be hard to bring them in during the bye week and get them up to speed. And I just don't see the panic mode in them just yet when it comes to that. Now, look, obviously, if Calvin Austin is going to miss multiple weeks, they're going to have to decide how they want to go about and fill that number 2 role between the candidates such as Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek, and potentially maybe elevation from the practice squad. And it's obviously not an ideal situation, but their viewpoint will be and has been, well, we like our wide receiver room. We're 3-1 at this point. We think we can beat Cleveland with what we got, and potentially even I think the Bengals is after that as well too.
Yep.
And obviously 2 huge games, because both of these are divisional games coming up on top of it. If you win these next 2 games, you're looking really good, right?
Yep.
At what, 5-1 at that situation with two divisional wins, and you haven't even played Baltimore. Long story short, I don't expect them to do anything this week. I don't think you can totally discount right ahead of the trade deadline, seeing what teams are out there and making a call. Look what they did last year, obviously, with Mike Williams at the trade deadline. It wasn't the best ideal, get, but at least they went and got one, and they've got plenty of cap space right now to go out and get a guy like Jacoby from the Raiders. So I would root for some of these bottom dwelling teams to keep losing and potentially get in sell mode, and then I think there might be a chance come right ahead of the trade deadline.
What if the Jets lose tonight to Miami? Does Alan Lazard become available closer to deadline
That's a good
time?
point too. Yeah, that's a good point too. And obviously, you would think he would be fairly cheap to get. Obviously,
Sure.
a lot cheaper when it comes to potential trade collateral than it would, say a Jacoby Meyer.
Because you got to pay Meyer.
Huh?
You got to pay Myers at that contract. Is what he wants at some point. So Lazard's a rental type. I know Marcon is very protective of his 2026 draft picks and does not seem to want to part with them, so there may not be a deal that materializes, but that's all down the road. We'll see how long Austin's out for. We'll see what the play of people look like in his absence, and we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, Lazard would be a name on my radar if the Jets give the Dolphins their first win tonight.
I forgot to look at the inactives tonight for the game. Is Lazard even active?
I am not sure. He's been inactive. At least he was for the Jets game in week 1 against Pittsburgh. I don't know what he's been doing or not doing since.
He is active for this one.
Okay. All right. Johan Hernandez, Deshaun Elliott is a tackling machine. Do you think his cleanup ability helped contribute to Minkah being moved? I don't think it was that thought process, but I think there was some comfort in you had a veteran safety that you trusted, that you'd still have a guy back there even after trading Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I think that move was not related to Elliott. They had an opportunity to get impact corner like Ramsey, have 3 good corners, the versatility, to add Jonnu Smith, all those things were the driving factors. But Elliott being a veteran guy, I think gave this team an additional layer of comfort to make that move.
Man, did you notice in the TV tape that a little bit of bounce with him from the others, especially late in the game? He almost missed the second interception, right?
Yeah.
to end the game there. They really seemed happy to have him back in the back end of that thing, and as we saw last year, what a great addition to the secondary. They rewarded him with an extension after the year, and also he's a great player inside the box. He can obviously make plays on the football in the air. It's good to see him already rebound with 1 interception, almost 2 in that game as a ball hawk there. So that it's good to get him back, especially on with it looking like you might have lost a body or 2 in that secondary for a couple of games.
Sure, it's certainly not all on him, but not a complete coincidence. Your best run defensive performance came with Deshaun Elliott back fully in the fold and playing an entire game, which he has not done to date this year, getting hurt midway through the Jets game. So he had that big 4th down tackle on that dive play that led to his interception a couple plays later, kind of a forgotten hidden play in this one. So very happy that Elliott was back. Ryan Carr, actually go up to Mark Edwards and then we'll get to Ryan. Scheme question, why does Arthur Smith like zone running so much? If they run other schemes better, what does it allow them to do if they ran it better? I mean, that's a personal philosophy thing. It goes into his upbringing and coaching. He was in Washington for a year. I figured that was kind of the Gibbs time where they were running a lot of zone stuff. He's from the LaFleur tree, sort of, kind of some similar stuff there. So it's kind of that Shanahan influence in his offense. It's kind of his upbringing, but I mean, he's run both. He ran a gap in this game, so he's obviously been a guy able and willing to adapt to what works.
Yeah, he ran gap in both Atlanta and Tennessee and all as well too. It's just obviously he's a based zone, mid zone type of guy. That's just his roots and what he kind of builds his offense off of. But we did see a couple of. It felt like, and I haven't. We'll see when Tom gets to charting back and some of these other analytic sites get updated by the morning time. There we'll have a little bit better grasp of exactly how many gap scheme runs there. Well, I want to say there was like 6 of them. Does that feel right? 5 or 6?
At least, if not more, in terms of the guard pulling. They had a front side pull with McCormick once too, so there was a couple variations on their gap scheme. So it's kind of like, like I grew up a PlayStation guy. That's what I got for Christmas as a kid. So that's just what I've always known, what I like. I'll never get an Xbox because of that. If I had got an Xbox for Christmas, I'd be an Xbox guy right now. If your coaching culture and background is integrated in that zone scheme, you're a zone scheme guy. If it's a gap scheme, you're a gap scheme guy. It just kind of feels like your formative years as a coach kind of turns you into what your philosophy becomes.
So that makes me an Atari guy, right?
Which I think is fitting. I think that's very appropriate for Dave.
I'm very Atari podcaster and analysis, right?
There you go. All right, good question, though. We appreciate that. Next one comes from, let me find it here. I lost my place. That was from Ryan Cardillo.
I got you off your game, didn't I?
Yeah, no, I feel like the boomer. Think Frymuth was a bigger part of the game plan until he whiffed his block on the field goal, or was it because we were running heavy? It's because they were running heavy. That was, to me, very game plan related. And Frymuth even stayed in as the wing even after that block. So had they really had an issue with him, they weren't happy about it, I'm sure, but he would have been removed from that situation. So it was a pure game plan thing, Ryan.
Oh, absolutely. They came out. One thing that sticks out. See, I follow the play-by-play via the NFL official game play-by-play site during games and all like that. I get a good feel of the game. I got all the stats at the glance right there when I do it. And then obviously when the play-by-play comes in, you see Anderson eligible and all like that as part of the play description and all like that. So I not only just watching the TV, but it verbally kind of lets you know what's going on. And it was evident right from the get-go that Spencer Anderson was going to be used a lot as an eligible lineman throughout the game.
Agreed. Brian LaGarretta, how do I say that? LaGarretta, probably saying that terribly wrong. Brian says, Alex, would you have gone for it on 4th and inches, tush push? We had used it successfully earlier in the game. Probably already heard my answer earlier. I would have gone for it on 4th and inches. I wouldn't have punted it away. And if I was going to punt it away, I wouldn't have booted it through the end zone. So I'll disagree with Tomlin on that one, but a win is a win. Would I use tush push? I don't know if I would have gone back to that. Connor Hayward getting the quarterback snap there, but I would have gone for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have went back to that, especially because you're doing the tush push without Aaron Rodgers back there coaching it, so to speak. I don't think I would have run that because it's just something that you're not the Eagles when it comes to that. Even though you got a big guy like Darnell Washington that you can utilize in that. I damn sure wouldn't have run a gap scheme. I don't think within that. I would have tried to add some sort of wrinkle. I don't know what exact kind of play call would have run there. I obviously don't like the toss in short yardage situation. I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know. Just pick your best inside zone play and roll with it. Probably.
Pittsburgh's done some funky things. The tush push, which we didn't get talked about a whole lot, but Hayward doing that. They ran Wildcat against New England with Aaron Rodgers split out. So there's been a couple interesting wrinkles in this run game. Just one last call out to like this stream, subscribe to the channel, check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. Vegas TJG says the first salary cap ever was 34, or what did he say here? I just scrolled down accidentally. He said, I totally lost my place here. 34.6 million back in 1994. So the salary cap has come a long, long way. John Pennington, Alex, do you think Keyshawn Williams can handle the punt returns from what you've seen at training camp? Yeah, he was the only punt returner this preseason. He was in the line every single day. That's the other equation to consider with Austin. If he does miss any games, which seems certainly possible right now, is the punt return aspect. Will it be Keyshawn Williams? Will it be Scotty Miller? Roman Wilson? Will it be somebody else? Also worth monitoring.
I tell you, it's kind of off the cuff comment here, but he brought up salary cap, and that made me think of players getting paid. I was watching that Packers Cowboys game last night, and all those big hits, especially the ones that Matthew Golden took, some because of his own actions and all like that, spinning around. But I thought to myself, man, even the minimum salary that these guys make nowadays, it's not enough. And you see these injuries on a week-to-week basis and all like that. I mean, to me, these guys ain't paid enough to go out there and do what they do. But that was just a thought that rolled through my head there.
I know you're saying that with a laugh. You're being serious about it, but some will say, well, they're overpaid. They're getting millions. Shut up and play. But the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right. And so it's all relative to what your industry brings in, what your value is to that industry. So I'm all for players getting paid, fully guaranteed contracts. Will that happen? Not soon, if it ever does happen. Probably will someday, but I'm all for players getting a buck.
Yeah, they need to get more than what they're getting right now, and I know they get a lot right now, but the minimum salary needs to be higher than it is.
Jason Bodine says, Art II is a bigger problem than Tomlin. When a head coach is not producing, it's up to the owner to fire him and bring in someone else. Further, Dan Rooney was a football guy. That's what I meant last week. That was a comment Jason made in our previous chat about, I think, Art not being a football guy. With a conversation about owners traditionally not being football guys. I understand your point, Jason, but reality is Tomlin's going to be here for probably till he doesn't want to be here anymore, like Chuck Noll and like Bill Cowher. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to write about this during the bye week because we have some downtime. I was going to write about it before the Ireland game, just too much going on. It was not lost, at least on me, how much media attention there was for Dan Rooney, the Daniel Martin Rooney, the likely successor to Art II. He had a big role in the Ireland game and getting that together and all the logistics that went into it. But it kind of felt like a little bit of a trial run of this is a look towards the future and what the future day-to-day owner of the organization is going to be.
I got that sense as well, too. He's a lot more visible, right?
Yes.
And had a lot more interaction. And I don't think that was by accident either. And and obviously the stage that it was set on called for that as well, too. It took some of the onus and I guess appearances off of Art Rooney II as well, too. But and really throughout this process, ever since the game was, all the initial media stuff with over in Ireland with the younger Dan getting a lot of the, some attention over there. I don't think any of this was by accident.
Yeah.
It did kind of feel like it was planned this way to give him a little bit more exposure. Now, does that mean it's going to happen anytime soon, where he becomes, the main guy? Obviously, he'll probably sit second fiddle, much in the way that Art did with Ambassador Rooney, up until his death. But I would imagine we're going to start seeing more of Dan Jr. here going forward.
Yeah, I would agree. And I should say, not day-to-day owner, but primary owner was kind of inarticulate with my words, but you guys know what I mean. Succeeding Art II, who, to my knowledge, has no plans to retire or step down anytime soon. He said as much in an off-season interview, but that day will come at some point. And Dan Rooney, they're calling him Dan Rooney, but to differentiate from Ambassador Rooney, Daniel Martin Rooney, getting certainly a lot of media pub this week. Infinity2Z3RO, do you guys have issue with Ramsey going back in the game and now facing multiple games out, opposite of the Jaylen Warren scenario? It's hard to say live. Did he exacerbate the injury, or was he going to miss a couple games really no matter what? He tried to gut it out. He tried. I trust the doctors who were making good decisions, so it's hard to really fault the team or himself.
Yeah, not knowing the degree of it, obviously. And look, I got fooled early in the game. I didn't know that that kind of, the way Alex said that he faked the injury on that fumble return and all like that and all. I thought he really hurt himself there. I thought he was gone for the game at that point, and for him to come back in at that point there, I was like, okay, all right, we'll watch this. I obviously don't know the level of the strain and all like that. I know the reports are that he could miss time. Did he hurt himself more by being out there playing on it? I can't answer that.
Right, yeah, it's how do you do, you fellow kids? That's a common celebration. You fake the hamstring pull, but ironically enough, he had an actual hamstring pull later in this game. So we'll just wait and see what his status is, but the bye week will certainly help. All right, about 10 minutes left. We got a question from Jared Mayak. Watching Rodgers confidently lead drives makes me nostalgic for seasons past. He's a tangible link to the past. Does it ever feel surreal for you guys from a fan perspective to see Rodgers out there? Kind of gotten used to it at this point because you're kind of in the soup of the season. But yeah, when you take a step back, it's going to be kind of an interesting chapter to look back at 5-10 years from now, Dave.
Look, I never would have imagined that Aaron Rodgers would have ended up in a Steelers uniform. I remember, what was it, a couple of years ago, there was all that chatter, and a lot of it stemming obviously from the interaction from Tomlin and Rodgers and the whole wink whenever the two would play against each other. So there has been a couple of times where I've had to kind of pinch myself and say, damn, that is Aaron Rodgers out there. But like Alex, you 4 games into it, it's not, he's you've just it's just grown to what the expectations are. But yeah, I'd be lying to say that a couple times this summer after he signed, I've actually went, damn, Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Sure.
And I would have, I would have never imagined that, even as far back as just 2 years ago, I guess.
Russ last year, Rodgers this year. It's an interesting time to be a Steelers fan. The nostalgia hit that I've gotten with Rodgers the last couple of games and really kind of this week. And this is just a random thought that means nothing, but I wish he would have had the chance to play behind DeCastro and Pouncey and Villanueva, that veteran offensive line with a vet like Rodgers. I think would have been just a lot of fun to see. Obviously would have had a better offensive line, but just the personalities and, I don't know, Villanueva, the Army Ranger with Rodgers, I just think it would have been kind of fun to see that group come together and grow.
I tell you, though, when you think of Aaron Rodgers, though, especially prime Aaron Rodgers, you think about him pushing that football down the field, don't you? And this is something, and we're going to be writing. I think Matthew Marks, he's probably going to be the one to attack this in kind of from several different areas here. The Steelers have 798 passing yards so far through 4 games, and 573 of those passing yards have come after the catch. That's 71.8% of the passing yards that this team has that have come after the catch. And over the course of 2021 to 2024, the league leader at the end of the season, the highest percentage was in 2023, the Kansas City Chiefs. 60.9% of their passing yards came after the catch, and that is the highest percentage, as I stated, going back to 2021 season, and the Steelers are at 71.8. So they're what is that? Almost 11, almost 11% higher than Kansas City was back in 2023. Obviously, or at least I don't think that's sustainable. There's even how many teams are over 55% dating back to 2021, not counting teams in 2025 so far? To be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams dating back to 2021 have finished the season with higher than 55% of their total passing yards coming after the catch. So obviously that's not going to be sustainable. So they're going to at some point have to figure out a way for more of their passing yards to actually come through air yards.
Sure, but it's an interesting stat, and we felt that on the Metcalf touchdown. So at least they're getting some good yak off of these plays,
Oh, yeah.
some explosive yak. But at some point, like you said, the vertical shots will have to be added to this offense. Ollie Howard, Species 5618, Dave and Alex question: Tomlin is an all-time first ballot Hall of Fame coach. When will fans stop working at Quick Mart and think they know better? So I'm sure that will draw some comments from those listening. I don't know if he's actually first ballot Hall of Fame coach. I'm not going to get in the weeds of that. That story still being written, but the frustration is understandable that this is a team that's not won a playoff game since 2016. It's felt stagnant. I am not a Tomlin hater. I'm not calling for his firing. I've kind of been more in that middle ground and, diehard Tomlin supporter and the Tomlin hater. I think he's a good coach, capable coach, but the results are the results. That's all that really matters in the end, and there's got to be some progress from the franchise. Hopefully this year is the year. I was optimistic going into the year. This would be the year for progress, get a playoff win, advance, make a run, but we'll wait and see.
Marty Schottenheimer's in, right?
Is he? Don't have a list of all the head coaches. Is Marty in? And he was not first ballot if he is. And I don't think Marty's in the Hall of Fame.
No, wait a minute. Is he in? No, he's not in. Hasn't he been a,
Might be a
how
senior
close has
committee
he gotten?
guy. I don't know exactly his standing. I mean, Tomlin's resume is not dissimilar from Bill Cowher.
Right.
And Cowher got in. Now, he got in on that bicentennial class that had the additional people brought in, which helped. Tomlin won't, I assume, have that quote-unquote luxury.
Here's the thing, if he wants to avoid being another, Marty Schottenheimer, as much as we'd like to have fun, and we've talked now that, okay, it's great that you are above 500 and you've got a bumper sticker and t-shirts all the time that talk about, look at all these years that, he's over 500, no losing seasons, that kind of thing there. At some point, though, the goal of this thing is not just to, have above 500 record, season out. You got to win some playoff games. You got to at least advance further than this team has advanced in recent years here. Does that mean that Tomlin unequivocally needs to win another Super Bowl to to get into Pro Football Hall or be a lock to get in? I think the answer is no, but it would behoove him to have another deep playoff run or two, I think. And now, look, it goes without saying that it is hard to do what he's done, the numerous non-losing seasons that he's had, and it'll be hard for any coach, I think, to kind of equal that, especially from the longevity standpoint in today's NFL, because franchises, if you get out of the playoffs a couple years in a row, you're gone. Nowadays, there's just not that sort of patience there. So what he has done is significant from a historical aspect, and it is impressive at a glance for those of us, or for those people outside the organization. It's impressive what he's done, but is it enough to be a first ballot guy at this point? Probably not. Now, what if Tomlin gets in there and makes a run to at least the AFC Championship game this year? Yeah, obviously it won't hurt his cause. Will it be enough? I'm not sure, but fans obviously, and fans of the Steelers expect winning. They expect Super Bowls. They expect long playoff runs, especially with a team like this year where they've got so much money tied up in it as well. So living in that now, right now, and the thing that we're looking at is, can this team get into playoffs? Can this team get over the hump of not winning a playoff game since 2016? And can they go a little bit further than that? I still don't think they're a Super Bowl winning team. I don't think I'll ever get to that point this year. But look, things are stacking up nice for them right now in the AFC. Joe Burrow's going to miss the time that he's going to miss. The Ravens have a ton of injuries right now, and they're 1-3 on top of it at this point. Got some tough ball games. So the AFC North, all of a sudden, with this team being 3-1, and if the Steelers can come out of the bye and take care of business against the Browns and the Bengals, and that's a big if. We've seen the Steelers lose games like that in the past, but if they can, this is the team that sets up to potentially win the AFC North and get maybe a home playoff game to start with. We're several weeks away, obviously, from that. It's too early to start dreaming about such, but if ever things were starting to shape up in the right way for this season, it has so far for the Steelers.
It's there for the taking. To clarify, and just to be clear, I think Tomlin will get in the Hall of Fame someday. I don't know if he's 100% locked first ballot, is kind of what I was responding to. I think the people that vote will revere him and love him and give him that nod. I really compare him to his mentor. We talk about formative years, Tony Dungy. He's the modern day Tony Dungy. A good man that's a leader that connects with players in a unique way, that had some early career success, but struggled to kind of get over the hump later in their career. Didn't have a great playoff track record. So to me, the resumes and arcs of Dungy and Tomlin are basically spot on 1-to-1. All right, a couple more questions for you guys, and then we're going to finish things out.
Looks real quick. Marty had a 5-13 record in the playoffs, I believe, in the postseason.
Yeah, Tomlin's right around 500, which I think is right about where Dungy sat for his career. Steel Pastor, if you're going to run a play on 4th and goal, call your best Rodgers pass play with options to change the call at the line. Yeah, I think Rodgers should have the ball and have control in that moment in time. So, with you there, Steel Pastor. Mm-hmm. Justin Gal, so Cleveland has to travel to London and possibly try out their new quarterback before coming back to face the Steelers. Yeah, we'll see if they stick with Flacco or go with Gabriel, who threw his first pass of his career. Yesterday was incomplete. Stefanski did not commit to a quarterback during his press conference, so either this time or next time, I think we'll be seeing a quarterback not named Joe Flacco in the lineup.
Yeah, that's a good point that they bring up too, and they're going to be playing a pissed off Minnesota team who's already going to be over season ready for Cleveland, right? For starters. Yep. The offense, even though the Browns defense has played well, the offense is obviously had their problems. What if Cleveland does go over there and lose pretty handily over there, and their offense fails to score 20 points once again, and then they have to make that long trip back over the pond and then start getting ready for a divisional game? And would they make the switch then? It's possible, but even if they don't, they're going to be a fairly damaged team, I guess, if you will, because their playoffs are not going to be in the cards if they lose another game right away. It doesn't feel like so. Sure. It would, and then once again having to play overseas and then come back and then get ready to go to Acrisure after that. That's a tall task.
Absolutely.
Especially that you got the Steelers coming off the bye on top of it, so that you got that working against them.
Yeah, and a team that should be a lot healthier coming out of the bye.
Right.
Let's go through some kind of rapid fire questions here. A couple I want to get to, and somebody made the comment that Jabril Peppers can also return punts. So I know Tomlin is not typically quote-unquote allow defenders to return kicks and punts, but another name to consider if Austin is not available for Week 5 and beyond. David Kapoor, were you all missing Pickens watching Dallas last night? I was. Imagine Pickens and DK together. Dave, were you missing Pickens?
I was just, Pickens is going to continue to make Pickens type plays, and he certainly did last night. And even down in the red zone, nice route in there for his other touchdown and all like that. I don't miss the Pickens internal stuff. Do I miss the playmaking and all like that? Absolutely. But you didn't trade him because he's not a good football player.
Sure. Yeah, it's easier to not miss him when you're 3-1 and whenever you win that game against Minnesota. But Dallas has also dealt with the other side of George Pickens earlier this season, so I'm not missing George Pickens right now. I get the point with the injury, and I also like the potential of Metcalf and Pickens, but I get why the team made the trade. Let's see, what else do we have here? 4 games in, how do we feel about the Fitzpatrick trade? Has defense changed very much from a schematic perspective? I feel better about it. Schematically, not a lot of changes, but the group has not been really healthy to probably get to flex the muscle of the scheme so far.
Yeah, look, you've been without Joey Porter since week 1. You just got Deshaun Elliott back, and now it looks like we'll see what happens with Ramsey and all like that. It will be nice to finally look at this defense with all the pieces out there.
Yeah, it will be nice. LBM Photos talking about Skylar Thompson's injury status. He's on IR. I think he's got to stay there through at least, week 7, I believe, with a hamstring injury after week 1. The minor injuries from the robbery in Dublin early Saturday morning, okay overall, but scary stuff there. Just glad he was okay.
Yeah, I got a sense he might not be making it back to the active 53 at this point. Will Howard's got to be ready to resume practicing, and we might not even see him. This team, as long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't get nicked up, this team might continue to try to ride the 2 quarterback thing.
Seems like it. They still have that open spot on the 53 right now, so we'll see what they're saving it for. Probably just waiting until they need it to utilize it. But I think they're on the 2 quarterback bandwagon right now.
Yeah, they save a game check this week, technically, because bye week play. You don't have to pay out that full salary to a rostered player this week.
Right. You get paid on your bye week, too, if you're an NFL player. Dan, how involved might Roman Wilson be in week 6? Any ideas why he hasn't been trusted as much? We'll see. We'll see on Austin's status, but if Austin couldn't play, obviously the snaps will go up considerably. He's a young guy, and Rodgers historically has not had great success in production with these young receivers overall. He's a number 3 receiver, if that, number 4 really behind Skoranek in an Arthur Smith system. Doesn't generally lend itself to a lot of production. That was true last year. It's true of Smith's tenure as an OC and head coach historically, and it's true this year.
Yeah, if Austin's sidelined for a couple of weeks, I don't think it's going to be one player filling the snaps that Austin played. I think it will be by committee to some aspect. I would expect Roman maybe or possibly to get the larger selection of those available snaps.
Right. Why did Arthur Smith's offense manage to flip a switch so effectively this game? Better on first down, stayed on schedule, ran the ball a whole lot better. That unlocks the whole offense there, Ethan.
Yeah, and look, even though they ran the ball better, they still only had 2 runs by running backs of longer than 10 yards in this game, and none of 20 yards or longer. So it was just more of staying. The running game looked better on the early downs, helped them to stay on schedule, and obviously too the lead that they built in this game allowed for them to run more and start wearing them down a little bit, start running a little bit downhill in the second half, so to speak. And the game plan obviously was to have Spencer Anderson eligible and utilize that aspect of kind of the extra big body out there, and I like that.
Me too. Andrew asking about Roman Wilson. Think we addressed that. Certainly would see him more if Austin is out. How much more, and his involvement still remains to be seen. John Pennington asking about expanding rosters to 60 and be able to dress everyone. That's been talked about quite a bit. There's a bit of a competitive advantage concern about dressing everybody, not having an active. So if you got 6 guys who are hurt and the other team has 2, you're not even. But I think when the NFL expands to 18 games, which could be as soon as next year, we'll see rosters expand in some form or fashion.
Yeah, somewhere on our site, we've got quoted Kevin
Colbert.
Colbert from several years ago, talking about why there's an inactive list and kind of the history behind it. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but Alex kind of hit on it, the whole reasoning behind the inactive list there. I would like to see, though, them expand the active roster by at least a couple of players, and then as a byproduct to that, expand the game day active list.
Yeah, make it 55-man roster, 50-man active game day roster, something like that, and increase it at least 2. Probably it's the number I'm shooting for, and probably most likely to occur.
And you're going to have to do that if you add another game to this, because of, I mean, I'm looking at the screen right now. There's a Jets player limping back to the locker room, and they're going to have to. The NFLPA is going to demand that they lengthen the active rosters, and then as a byproduct of that, I would imagine, however many they expand the actual active roster, that the game day roster will be expanded by that number of players.
Yeah, you saw Pittsburgh literally run out of cornerbacks yesterday. So more depth is always good from a team perspective. Let's see, anything else here quickly. Mauro Campos, Rogers, Big Ben says, greetings from Mexico, talking overall skilled personality. I'm not sure if he's saying like now or late in their careers. I will say if you're asking me to rank the best quarterbacks in NFL history, which I did a couple years ago, I should update that list. I would put Rogers above Big Ben.
Yeah, I would probably as well.
I think I had Rodgers in my top 10. I think I had Ben in my top 20, somewhere around there. But people can debate that. Let's see. Can we just enjoy how all around the offense seemed to be playing like a group of guys that enjoy each other and have each other's backs? DK defending, Little Ben on the push. Yeah, the team played together. There was a lot of selfless play. I got a video on that going up in the AM. So it really was a team effort win. Agreed.
It definitely is a game to build off of, especially going into your bye week, and especially with your next 2 games against AFC North opponents there. Best offensive game this season. So, yeah, it certainly should be celebrated, the game that they had on that side of the ball.
All right, Dave, we're going to get out of here and go watch some Monday Night Football. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, the super chats, the likes, all the good questions. So, Dave, as always, thanks for being here.
All right, thanks for keeping the fort nailed down without me there early on. Hopefully I didn't take away too much by joining when I did. Thanks for all the great questions everybody had. Thanks for the turnout once again. And 2 weeks from today, we'll do this again. Peace and love, everybody.
There'll be an archived version of this live chat on the channel, also on Steelers Depot. So be sure to like, subscribe, check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.